Now let's talk about design thinking as a process. There is no best design thinking process. Design thinking is often described as an exploratory process that begins with an initial defining of the problem, followed by exploration of the user and the design space, generating possibilities through brainstorming, building prototypes that are then tested, often a number of times. The feedback then is used to refine the problem and to improve the final outcome. Now, the notion of a process is paradox in itself, as there is a theoretical conflict really between the idea of generating and iterating and the standardization of workflows that is usually suggested by a process-based approach. So instead of referring to a process, design thinkers are navigating through various phases or modes. Now, these phases are distinct from steps, as they do not have specific boundaries or protocols of scientific approach to problem solving. Design teams would usually go through these phases repeatedly, simultaneously, and at different times in a non-linear fashion. The UK Design Council in 2005 suggested that the design process involves two separate phases of what we call divergent and convergent thinking. Let's look at these phases a bit more closely. The first divergent phase is about discovering new opportunities, then going through a convergent phase of analysis and synthesis to define the findings into a number of opportunity areas. The process then is divergent again by exploring and developing a broad range of potential solutions, before then converging upon these solutions that then clearly deliver value to the end user and the organization. Now, discovering, defining, and framing the problem are key aspects of creativity. If you think about traditional analytical approaches to problem solving, there's usually only little time spent on defining the problem, and most time is spent on making the solution work. Proper problem definition is often neglected, and problem solving becomes the main activity. But if you are dealing with so-called wicked problems, the problem in itself is not a given. Rather, the problem must be constructed. Design thinking emphasizes that a good solution requires substantial time spent on defining what the problem actually is. In that sense, design thinking is developing and refining both the definition of a problem and the ideas for a solution. To do this well, you need a constant iteration of analysis, synthesis, evaluation processes between problem space and solution space. In the second half of the process, during the development and deliver stages, the solution space is first extended, using, for example, brainstorming to create many options. Mentally, this represents a process of going broad, diverging in terms of concepts and possible outcomes. This ideation step then provides the fuel for building prototypes. Prototyping is the development of artifacts, digital, physical, or experiential. They are intended to provoke feedback from customers and users. During the testing phase, these prototypes are then placed in the user's context so that the solution space can converge and be narrowed down. Over various iterations, the prototypes develop from rather low-resolution prototypes to a higher resolution. The phases of the design thinking process are open to debate within the design thinking community, and there is no one best way. But all approaches incorporate similar phases and activities, the ones that we just talked about.